Good evening. Today is Monday, January 26th, 2026. We almost are a month through the year of 2026, and boy, how time flies. It's just amazing. This is another edition of Detroit in Black and White presents Reality Strikes with Eric Brown. I have two amazing guests with me this evening that I reached out to because this past week, we had an incident here in the metropolitan Detroit area where a woman, we still don't have all the details, so I would just speak on what I know so far. A young lady was said to have been homeless, and she was found near a homeless facility after being, they say, refused entrance into a homeless shelter out in Macomb County, the city of Mount Clemens. And that prompted a lot of angst in the Detroit area because not too long ago or last year, we had an incident where a mother, her mother, and two of her children were in a garage attached to one of the casinos, and two of the kids passed away as a result of being homeless. So as always, I want all of the viewers to like, subscribe, share. And I want to first, I'm a gentleman, so I'm going to first introduce T. Brown, and I will tell you a little bit about her. I'll let you do it yourself, T. I guess it's easier. You tell us about yourself.
Right now, I'm a part-time consultant, a full-time student. I organize with Detroit Eviction Defense. I am on the State of Michigan Homeless Policy Council. I am a former board member on the Detroit Continuum of Care. Now I'm just a general member. And I also am on the state's Racial Equity and Accountability Committee. And yeah, we'll be changing the name because we actually do more than racial equity. But at the time, that was what our focus was on. But with the Trump administration, we've kind of had to change course. So that's about what I do.
And I do come back to you, Ms. Brock. I do want to learn a little bit more about the DED, the Detroit Eviction Defense. And want to welcome Dwayla Boyce to the show this evening. Thanks for joining us. And now I'll go to my good friend, fraternity brother, Pastor Nettles out there in Palmdale, California, which is in Los Angeles County. And me and him was having a conversation prior to coming on. He gave me a statistic that I had no idea was so prominent with regards to the homelessness in America. And I let him introduce himself, and then we'll get into the conversation about this homeless, unhoused crisis here in America.
Well, hey, everybody. I am Billy Nettles. A longtime friend of Eric's. That's probably one of my greatest honors. I don't know. But I am a two-time retired public servant. I served 31 years with Los Angeles County Probation Department, where I was a field director for a large part of the northern portion of Los Angeles County. And I just retired this past April 24. April 25, from the largest homeless shelter, largest homeless organization in the nation, Hope the Mission, the largest rescue mission in America. And I was with them for 4.5 years or so. And now I am currently the associate pastor at the Highlands Church here in Palmdale, where a great part of my responsibility is our footprint in the community, both locally and globally. So I'm very involved in our community in a couple of disciplines, but they all point back to human services.
Thank you, Brother Nettles, as well as Ms. Brown. And as you are looking at your screen, you'll be able to see the comments, and we will engage as well with the audience and the comments that they made. And, you know, Mr. 1213 stole my thunder because this was the first topic I want to discuss regarding the deceased woman found out in Mount Clemens, because yes, her family feels that it is foul play. To Mr. 1213 point, if it is true, we can't put a humbling spin on this unfortunate case. And I agree with him, because if it is foul play, and see, that's one of the problems that people are having with the media nowadays, because the media is the ones that, you know, put out the information as it relates to her being homeless, turned away at the bus arriving late to take her out to the homeless shelter. So yes, I appreciate you, Mr. 1213, who's a regular viewer of all the platforms of Detroit in Black and White. So with regards to that, Ms. Brown, what's your take on what Mr. 1213 has stated?
I agree with him, but I think we should also consider that two things can be true at once. I don't necessarily believe she was homeless. When I saw her picture, and, you know, they say you can't judge a book by its cover, I thought, this is not a woman, to me, that seems to be homeless. However, it does sound like she's precariously housed, the way they kind of made it sound like she was couch surfing. I think that she was precariously housed, homeless, however you want to say that. But I also think there was foul play. Again, it's cold. And one thing you'll find out about people who are homeless or housing unstable, they know what resources are out there. And as cold as it was, I just don't see her just laying behind a dumpster and allowing herself to die. My other concern was, why were her pants off in this weather? I don't think she said, well, let me get comfortable in this cold and go lay behind this dumpster. I think whatever happened to her happened behind that dumpster, or somebody dumped her behind the dumpster. But I also think that she was precariously housed. Some people call it homeless. Precariously housed just means I'm not out in the elements and I'm not in the shelter. But what I am doing is, tonight I'm sleeping on my sister's couch for a couple of nights. I'm gonna go to my mom's house and sleep on the couch there a couple times, and just kind of moving about the people you know. So I do think that there's more to this story, but I also think that there needs to be responsible journalism. And I think I just was talking to God, I can't remember her last name. Her name is Laura. She's an instructor out in California, and she teaches journalism. And she says there needs to be a discussion on how the news talks about homeless people, because you can be homeless in your car, you can be homeless precariously housed, but when the news talks about it, they're going to put out that B-roll of people on Skid Row in California, the old video of Tinseltown here in Detroit. They are going to make it seem like that person is out here sleeping in the streets, regardless of how they were sleeping. And that is not all that homelessness is. That's not all that it looks like. There are people that look like everybody on this call right now that are homeless.
And you bring up a very good point, because, you know, we try not to judge a book by its cover, but she was an attractive woman.
Yeah.
She was an attractive woman, 52, 53 years old. And in addition to, I think they say her pants was on or off, or there was a tear in her pants. She had no shoes on. So that's interesting in and of itself as well. So, yeah, we have to get to the bottom of this. We have to, first of all, the media need to understand, trying to be first is not the way you want to go now. Getting it right should be the standard when it comes to the media these days. If you didn't learn anything about the 2020 election, when people got it so wrong with regards to Clinton being the victor or the anticipated victor, not paying attention to the polls, and everybody just want to, you know, I think a lot of people have stuff already typed out. They just waiting to hit send.
Yeah.
Then they got to retract everything based on the fact of new facts coming out. And same with the situation in Minnesota. You know, you had the Good, and I can't remember the guy name, starts with a P. You know, there were numerous.
Petty or something Petty or something.
Petty or something. But there are numerous angles. But the media only got the first angle out because everybody wanted to be the first. Because that happened at 9 in the morning out in Minnesota, which, you know, it's 10 o'clock here. You know, so yeah, it's just about getting it right instead of just trying to be first. And this is a situation that happened here in Michigan, Billy Joe, but you all had a situation in LA, a former NFL player that was found dead in a homeless encampment. Matter of fact, he was, I think, stabbed to death, if my memory serves me right from what I read.
Yeah, he had some blunt force trauma to his head as well as being stabbed. I want to make a comment. I on what you were saying initially. I really appreciate the way the conversation was trending toward the fact that there are stratifications of homelessness. That you don't have to be down and out. You can be up and out. To coin a phrase from actually a musical group from Detroit, Michigan, uh, who said that you can be up and out. That was the Winans. Uh, that uh, one of the things I think that we did here, one of the things that we did right, because we did a lot of things wrong, but one of the things I think that we did right in Los Angeles was we were. We were very particular about how we were going to articulate what we meant by someone being unsheltered or homeless. That they didn't necessarily have to be on the street. I mean, you got people that are, and I really appreciate that term that you use, Ms. Brown, precariously housed. Uh, and that is that they could be sleeping in their car, they could be couch surfing, uh, they could actually be in a shelter and still be uh, homeless. I mean, the whole fact that uh, you're not in a place that uh, you can call your own, that you are responsible for, and that you hold whether in title or in contract on your own. If you don't have that, then you are in fact homeless. And we serve people uh, with relative to that definition of homelessness. So I that's one of the things I think that we got right here.
And all that thought, Billy Joe and Ms. Brown, I want to recognize some of the viewers. Definitely want to, give a shout out to Duela Boyce again, a regular, Mr. 1213, Derek Henry, Miss Sheila, who's a regular, and someone I met personally when we had the show in person over at McShane's in Corktown, Detroit. And Mr. 1213 has another interesting comment. I get to that in a minute. Or actually, it's up on the screen. And, Derek Henry, he has another comment I want to mention. But Mr. 1213, he asked some questions, and maybe, I haven't read the full poverty report of the new mayor. Maybe you can speak to this, Ms. Brown. He is asking, what is the new mayor's plan to improve the homeless shelters, including shelters for women and children?
I don't think there is one, because if there was one, Julie Snyder wouldn't still be running HRD. When I found out that, oh God, what is David's last name? The black guy who's now the chief of staff. When I found out he was coming back, I was wondering, was he going to be head of HRD? And don't get me wrong, Julie Snyder is a nice lady, but I think this is too much for her. There is no oversight of these shelters. I sent a letter requesting a clawback to the money that was given to DRMM when they kept failing the shelter. Nobody even acknowledged it. And now when I send those kind of complaints and objections, I don't expect a response. I expect that somebody will come behind me and say, I want to read Tara Brown's objection. Can I have it through the FOIA process? I do it for posterity, not because I think they'll do anything. The city paid Barb Poppy and Associates. She was like a homeless consultant for Barack Obama, paid them, her and her team, almost $500,000 to roll out a strategic plan regarding homelessness. And we still haven't seen it. Then Mike Duggan got together with a group of people the week those kids died and put together his 7-point plan that is not properly rolled out. Nothing about homelessness is going to change until we get some oversight at the state and the local level, and not this, oh, you said you did it. We sent 2 people from Mishta out to look at the shelter and we made an appointment. Everything looked good when we came, and we went back and reported that to the state. They need a team that can say, whether you live in Houghton County in the UP or whether you live in Michigan City touching Indiana, if you are anywhere in Michigan at any point, we can get in the car with the state logo on the side, drive to your facility and demand to come in, because HUD has that. When I was managing the projects, one day I was sitting there working and a woman from HUD came in and said, and I quote, "I need to see your files." I said, "Well, what files do you need to see?" "Take me to your file room." And that was the bottom line. It was no, "Well, can you come back and make an appointment? I have people here." It was, go unlock that door and I'm going to sit back there and pull and look at the files I want to look at. And if I find something, your ass is grass. And if I don't, I'll just leave up out of here. And that's what happened. My files were constantly in order because I thought, I am a Black property manager at a predominantly Black property. If any time HUD is going to come in and bother somebody, it's going to be me, in the words of Justin Timberlake. And that's what we need. It's not this business of, well, you said you did it right, so you did it right. And when you look at these grant applications and awards, it'll have stuff like administrative costs. Well, what the hell are these administrative costs? Administrative costs could be anything. And I'll tell you what it usually is. When you see administrative costs, that's salary, and it's top heavy, and it's usually what's costing the most at the shelter, not the services. I think in all the times that I've reviewed and scored applications, only one I ever saw was where the services were more than the administration fees.
Wow.
And you can put anything under the administrative fees. If I go buy my staff lunch, I can put that under administrative fees if I know how to play with this budget and put it in the right place. And it's a lot of game playing. And CEO and directors making six figures. Meanwhile, the entry level person getting verbally abused and experiencing your homeless clients in a negative way. Yeah, that person is barely making over minimum wage. That disparity, like I said the other night, between the lowest paid and the highest paid is wild.
And you bring a very interesting point, Ms. Brown, because, you know, out in LA County, LA City proper, there are numerous homeless encampments. When last time I was out there, 3 years ago, I think it was, Billy, right? Yeah, 2023, I think it was, 2023, 2022. And I went to an area that was just, you know, crazy with homelessness. And the oversight is just interesting to me because you have one of the most popular, I mean, I wouldn't vote for her, but you have one of the most popular congresswomen in America whose district all this homelessness encompasses. And we talking about Maxine Waters. And me and Billy, you know, Pastor Nettles was talking about that before you came on, before we went live. I mean, Billy, I just found that to be amazing that all of this exists. They even had an area where they start using or buying old mobile homes and recreational homes and housing people on the street. I guess that made them more safe. But then a friend of mine drove me to where the congresswoman lived, and it was like night and day. I'm like, what the fuck? Oh, my bad, Pastor. My bad, Pastor.
No worries.
I
You know what? The LA Housing Authority, LAHSA, has partnered with the County of Los Angeles in several what we call room key projects, and these are grants. These are monies that federal monies that are administered by the state. This room key project, and I actually have had the privilege and the opportunity to see the monies administered and go through all of the.
He must have had a technical difficulty. While he's there, I want to address, if you can see it on your screen, Ms. Brown, I want to address the comment by G Money Hollywood, and good to see you, G Money. Why do family members come to the defense or have a voice after the fact? Why didn't they come to her rescue and provide shelter for their loved one during this ordeal? And to that comment, we don't know what was going on with that family. They probably did.
They did.
But we only know what the media has already reported.
And the media is not always accurate. I know from experiences that I've had with them. They report what they want to report, or they report what's sensational or what the sponsors want. It's like, Eric, you should get your own newspaper. Like a lot of people are doing their own newspapers and Substacks, and that's where you get the real news. And then I'm gonna be honest. I have an uncle who has had a drug addiction my entire life. Like as long as I can remember, my uncle has been on cocaine. And there were times where we as a family were just like, look, this is too much and we're not going to deal with it. So I do understand the frustration, but according to the interview that her family did, that's why I said she was precariously housed, because they're claiming like she kind of was just moving from place to place.
And that's the term, I've been involved in the literacy space for, well, actually going on 9 years now. And I learned the term couch surfing probably about, let me see, 2017, maybe 2018, 2019. And a lot of the figures that they try to keep and expose are related to not being able to count some of these students due to them not having a permanent address. And they go from house to house, friend, family, sleeping and living on couches, similar to what this young lady probably may have been doing. We don't know that.
But here's the other part of that you don't hear about. So you have families couch surfing. For instance, if somebody in my family was homeless and they were staying under my roof, they are homeless and they are at the mercy of my personality. So any day that I get tired of them, I can throw them out, and that happens. But because they are under a roof, on a couch with a safe place to stay, they're not even counted as homeless. When they go to get services, it's like, where are you staying? Well, right now I'm staying at my sister's house. Things aren't going great. Oh, well, come back when they start getting bad and something happens and she throws you out.
Oh, wow.
Some of these communities don't even help you if you are precariously housed.
Wow. And you can finish your point, Billy, because, we were talking about, that's all right, LA and, the congresswoman for your district and where she lives versus the massive homelessness encampments all over her district.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that with Project Room Key, we were able to, and I really liked the strategy. We were able to purchase old hotels, motels that were run down, vacant. We were able to purchase those properties, go in and renovate them, partner with the municipal administrators to get funding, to hire staff. And one of the larger growing, I think Ms. Brown mentioned families. They're one of the fastest growing demographics in terms of homelessness and unsheltered folks is families. Even though nationally about 8 out of every 10 homeless is an individual, I think we've seen like uh, a 33% increase in homelessness since what was it, 2002? And I mean that's a tremendous number in terms of families, and the children being the most vulnerable because of the impact that homelessness has. I mean, and the connection that homelessness has to other uh, necessities to in the hierarchy of needs. Um, Food insecurity. If you homeless, you got to it almost it goes without saying that there's food insecurity. If you're homeless, how many we people look narrowly on homeless folks and they blame it on drugs. And I'm not saying that there aren't drugs and alcohol abuse among homeless, obviously. But when you start digging and you find that a lot of times they're taking speed and those kinds of drugs that are going to keep them awake so that they can stay safe and not end up like that lady that we talked about, the woman that we talked about at the top of the show. They want to stay awake so that they don't get raped. I've had personal conversations with women and I asked him, well, why do you have on five pair of pants? I'm thinking,
Mhm.
oh, it's summertime in Los Angeles. Why do you got five pair of pants on? You know, you're not trying to keep warm, and it's not because of some psychosis. They got five pair of pants on so that they can protect themselves from sexual violence.
Wow.
So um, I'm just I think that we with Project Room Key, how it started. It had its the progenitor was that it was a program that would uh, address those people who were homeless, but they were at risk of being hospitalized. Initially, that was the target group, but it was so effective in getting people off the streets that they broadened not only the service delivery model from just we weren't just uh, uh, doing hotel vouchers and helping people rent rooms from private landlords, but they said, hey, what if we buy some of these hotels and go in there and renovate them? We can house more people, and we can program the people that are in the hotels, and we have more say so in terms of uh, helping them uh, uh, to better themselves rather than just housing them. But we're housing them. We are training them. We're developing programming where we can help them to become employable, where they are taking advantage of other social systems that can assist them. Because you'd be surprised at the simple things that we take for granted that they don't know how to navigate, and we can pair them with some caseworkers that and housing navigators that can take them from the status their present status to better their lives.
And is LA like I view the LA homeless situation as well as down in San Diego, the homeless situation down there. Here in Michigan, a lot of facilities make the homeless that are at their facilities leave at daybreak, and they just out on the street. So do they do
Was
that out in
that but
LA?
you're That's congregate housing. Room key is where they actually for example, the Room Key project that I actually helped to lead and to establish was a family shelter. It was what we did was we purchased two older hotels that were adjacent to each other, and we made it one campus, and we made it a family housing. It was interim housing rather than congregate shelter. Normally, congregate shelter is to get people out of inclement weather and to get them off the street, emergency shelter. But interim housing is, or another term people use is bridge housing, trying to
Okay,
give them something until they get into permanent housing.
temporarily, yeah, right.
Right. And so we figured we surround these people with services, give them some housing navigators, get those people some care, some caseworkers, and the goal is to get them into permanent housing, not just to get them off the street. We want to get them off the street, but we want to get them prepared for permanent housing, and not even just putting them in permanent housing, because if they don't have independent living skills, they're not going to be able to stay in those permanent housing. You'd be surprised how quickly they'll get evicted,
Mhm. Yeah.
not knowing how to behave and knowing what they're responsible for. And we have caseworkers that we put those kind of services around them.
So you
Even
do as best
some
you
of the
can to have wraparound service so that they don't
Yeah,
end up in a situation
yeah,
for a long period
and
of time.
where they recidivate. Yeah,
And
Well, here's
then,
the other problem too. There's no expectation. And I always stress, because I have a real estate license and I used to do property management, and I still consult on it. And that's one of the things I bring up. you have to have landlord engagement and tenant readiness, because there are people who don't know how to live in apartments. When I took over one of the buildings here, they used to call it the Carter at McClellan and Jefferson. When I was working there, I was stunned at the stuff I would see. They were living, some of them, like it was a dormitory. Their door would be propped open. You could look in their apartment. And these are apartments where adults with kids are living. You know, they got stuff out in the hallway. You rent the inside of this apartment. Take all that crap in there and close and lock that door before somebody breaks in. And that was the other problem. When I took it over, it was after it had been raided. There were people in there that simply did not know how to live in an apartment. And I'm telling them, like, if you do that again, I'm going to evict you. You used to drive down Jefferson and it would be 30 people standing outside in front of that building, drinking, smoking weed, shooting the breeze, just walking back and forth for no reason, like vagrants. And it's like, you have to tell people, because everybody didn't grow up like you. And it's not telling people how, it is telling people how to live. And it's telling people, you know, have some dignity about yourself, get inside your apartment and drink inside your apartment and close the door. Because again, and it was real. When I see the people who live there standing out in front of the building drinking, if I like to drink, then I'm gonna go over there where they're at. And now you have strangers and homeless people living in the lobby where you pay rent.
Wow.
And I think there needs to be a discussion about permanent supportive housing too. Permanent supportive housing, ongoing, without any restriction. I think that should be reserved for seniors. If you are a 20-year-old woman who doesn't have a job and you've got 3 kids at home, you need to be going to online school and getting your free 2-year degree from the state of Michigan, because we need to better you to transition you out of this. Because again, some of them come into permanent supportive housing and they're overhoused already. You have 3 kids, but they're stuffing you in a 2-bedroom. And that's the other thing we need to talk about. It's almost like there's no more ambition. There's no more what perseverance. Like I went, when I was a property manager, I went to an apartment to do an inspection and found out there was a woman living in the studio apartment with 3 kids. And I'm like, why did they squeeze you in here? She got squeezed in on fraud, but that was a whole nother issue. She was so desperate for housing, she just went ahead and took a studio unit. We have women in the homeless shelter with 4 kids. I can't just live anywhere. Ma'am, no disrespect, you already live anywhere.
Right.
The person across the block from you came in here with bed bugs and roaches, and this is not where you want to raise your kids. Because I have been around adults. I grew up in a community where, like, I didn't know what eviction was until I moved to Detroit. Like, I grew up in a community where even if your mom had a not so great job, she was able to keep a roof over your head. So when I move here and meet people who are my age that have lived in the shelter, their parents or their mom, single mom, experienced housing stability, and they talk about the random places. Oh, we lived in an A-band, and you know, we lived in the shelter. It's mind-blowing. And that kind of trauma does something to your kids that they carry with them. Like, the shelter is not good for anybody, because now the way the shelter is set up, I know in Lansing, our shelters were like, you have to leave out during the day. When you come back, you have to tell us where you've been. You have to tell us, you know, where you look for a job, who you spoke to as far as the house. Here, I literally, when I lived over there by Cass, would watch people go out in the morning, sleep on the grass or in the park in the common areas, and then come back at 6 o'clock. You've done nothing all day but hung out in the park, smoked you a blunt, went to the store. Now, some of them were looking for jobs, but it was a big portion of them that didn't. All day long, they just stayed at the shelter, left out the shelter, hung out the city, you know, kind of toured the city or the parks, and then went back after they were done. There was a computer lab there. Like, there was a park there. Like, why are we not allowing them to put the kids in the park and they sit in the computer lab and look for jobs?
Right.
Why is Michigan Works not opening offices? And you're giving them grant money. Keep the grant money. Open a job development center inside the homeless shelter. Like,
Ms. Brown, Billy has a question for you.
I wanted to ask if are they making a distinction between low barrier housing and other housing that require participation in programming?
I think so.
Are
I
they
don't
using
know
that
of anyone.
term?
I've
Are
heard
they?
it, yeah, but I don't know of any program here that they're requiring anybody to participate in unless you are signed up with something like a Housing First program. Like it's almost like there's no effort to get anybody better in the homeless system. Once we have you in, we have to keep you because we have to make money off you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's really no, they say they want to transition you, and there are people with jobs that are easier to transition, and those people kind of get transitioned.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't have enough money for rent, you are just there. Then we have programs that I feel create homelessness. I advocated for right to counsel. When I started observing it, I didn't support right to counsel. Mary Sheffield and Tanya Myers Phillips pushed that shit. And then once they got it rolled out, it was, we got a feather in our cap and now we're done. And
Mm-hmm.
what that is sometimes, you have Lakeshore Legal. They have about, last I used to do court watch. I've been in school. They had about 5 women who were damn good attorneys, and they were going to fight. They were going to file appeals. They were going to push back. But then you had other attorneys that weren't worth a damn, and they're just a warm body standing next to you with the catchphrase, I can get you 45 days. That's 15 days more than 30 days. Why can't you get me some money? And that's what they need to do. Some of these people are homeless because of $400 to $1,000 in back rent. They got sick, they missed work, and now they're homeless. Somebody died, they had some issues, and now they're homeless. And once the shelter has you, it almost seems like they don't let you go.
Because they getting that grant money. Let me get to some of these comments too. So Jawar 1721, and I haven't been to Ghana, and he spoke on the fact that where is it at? Ghana does not have the social problems America has. I haven't been to Ghana, so I cannot speak to that. And then he also stated that Mike Duggan is still the mayor. Trust me, he is. Then you have another comment by Ms. Sheila, who's a regular viewer. There's no oversight for these homeless organizations like Community Housing Network, pretty much what you just spoke to, Ms. Brown. Then you have a comment from Ms. Sheila. The landlords bully homeless people with inhibited housing. And then we have former police detective extraordinaire. He's tuning in tonight, Ira Todd. He said, tell it like it is. And I'm not sure which comment he's referring to by yourself or Billy. Then someone also said about, I think it was Derrick Henry. He spoke about the fact that, we've got working homeless people today, and that's a true statement as well.
Yeah, yeah.
And it is. And here's the other thing. We live in a society like back in Laverne and Shirley days, 70s, 80s, even 90s, maybe the early 2000s. You could look online and see somebody needs a roommate situation, and you just go stay there. Now it's not even safe to stay with a stranger in a roommate situation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right. And then Gentleman's Room 257 asking me if I saw the mayor speak on ICE, which I did not. He said that she did, I'm assuming it's a he, she did a good job. Nobody going to bait her. I mean, it's not an issue here in Detroit yet. So when you cross that bridge at the time, you deal with it. Good evening, Miss Winston, another regular viewer. Ira Todd, good evening. And like we talked about on Saturday, and we all know this, homelessness and poverty is a big money business. People need to understand that. I saw and I'm gonna try and get him on. The director and producer of this documentary called Poverty Inc. It was on the international version of it, and they will be premiering the American version of it this year. And Detroit figures prominently in that, as well as St. Louis. But people need to understand, poverty is a $1 billion industry. And people, for whatever reason, just like the failure in the educational system, it's $1 billion industry. You keep them dumb, somebody's making money from people being uneducated. So I appreciate all the comments from the viewers.
Everybody behind.
And here's a comment for you, Billy. California is a different animal. The cost of living out there is out the roof. California can really be its own country. Their economy is bigger than 40% of the countries around the globe. One of the things that's interesting about this comment, and I don't want to steal your thunder because I just found out when you told me, Billy, California, where LA exists, New York, where New York City and the boroughs exist, those two cities make up 50% of the homeless population in America. That is an astounding number. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that, Billy?
Yeah, it is. We're talking about on a national level. Um, we're talking about. I think it's like 8 out of every 10,000, and then you have Los Angeles and New York, two of the most populous cities in America, making up 50% of the 780,000 homeless in the nation.
Wow.
50%. And I want to just make a comment regarding the profitability of homelessness. I mean, we talk about the drivers of homelessness, and you know, the nice things to say is, oh yeah, one of the major drivers of homelessness is uh, the lack of affordable housing, certainly poverty, but profit and policy drive homelessness. People make money. People make policy that make money, and may make policy that is convenient. I I can't tell you how many times I've tried to kick against policy that it wasn't as convenient for us, but it would have been more effective. It's almost like, I mean, at the time I was a public administrator, and of course the encumbrance for to do the hard work and to think critically and uh, to to strategize, uh, to burn the midnight oil, to say the hard things, not just to to the powers that be, but also to the people that we were leading, who were supposed to administer the policies. It wasn't going to be easy, but people chose convenience over and comfortability over effectiveness. And even in California, it's been said, because of our uh, demographics and the fact that we make up, along with New York, 50% of the homeless population that in our country, that as it goes with California and New York, so goes the nation, because policy is experimented here, uh, uh, because we set trends, we quote unquote set the gold standards, uh, because of trial and era or whatever. But I am, even when I was a public administrator, in full disclosure and transparency, I would always echo the fact that profit and policy, were the biggest drivers of homelessness, even more than the lack of affordable housing.
And one thing that's interesting, you guys did something out there with hotels, and this has been a conversation. And thanks for joining this evening, Karen Winston. So too, Jill Sheridan, who's a regular. She joined late, but she's here. Karen speaks about a topic, Ms. Brown, that has been talked about for so long. Detroit has closed so many schools down. Why haven't they fast tracked some of those schools into housing projects?
Because when they do fast track them into housing, they're housing for rich people. Like I had said that years ago when they closed Cooley and places like that. Do you know how many people you could have probably got to rent affordable housing at Cooley to be able to say, I used to go to school here and now I live here? There's
Right.
a school over on, I believe it's Antietam, right there adjacent Their parking is right across from the Horatio Williams Foundation at the end of Rivard.
Yeah, over there off Antietam, but I'm not sure what I used to live in that neighborhood. I mean, I was living in Lafayette Park there, so I'm not sure what school that was because it's around the corner from a Pavilion high rise as well as Four Freedoms, the senior citizen. And I'm not even sure if it's on Four Seasons is still a high rise for seniors. Bless you, but those facilities, are. It just amazes me. You had Miller that was empty for so long before it became what it is now. And then I think part of it is Mosaic. The other part is a charter school.
Yep.
So it's a lot of schools that have closed down. I mean, even Murray Wright, before Murray Wright became eventually Frederick Douglass Academy. Now it's a combination of the Lions Academy and Leadership Academy, which are the schools for last chance students, more or less. Yep. So it just amazes me. It amazes me. You have a problem. It's just like with education, and Billy knows how I feel about education and literacy. These are fixable problems, but the powers that be and the bureaucracy don't want to fix them because you're taking money out of their pocket with regard to the profitability of keeping people dumb and keeping people unhoused.
And that's there's no money in that. More than enough property and land in the land bank.
It's more than enough land. It's definitely more than enough land.
There's what used to be a housing project at the end of Jefferson towards Dickerson. It's right across from that plaza or near that plaza.
Right off from that plaza, right off Jefferson.
And when I moved to Detroit, that building was full of people and they just left it vacant. Nobody's torn it down and rebuilt something else. It's just sitting there. And they're talking about this affordable housing that they're building over by Henry Ford. Let's be honest. Every time we've heard affordable housing, it has not been affordable for the majority of the people here. And
it will never be affordable, Ms. Bryant. It will never be affordable because there's a formula that goes into defining affordable housing. First of all, look at the east side of Detroit. Look over by Denby, East English Village, that area. Yep. You're putting averages of houses that are also in the Grosse Pointe area, St. Clair Shores area. So how's that affordable housing? So it's a nice catchphrase, but the average person has no idea what affordable housing means.
They don't, and they don't know the difference between affordable and low income.
Right.
So when they're hearing affordable, they're thinking low income. Those are two different things.
One has nothing to do with the other. It's night and day. You cannot. Then you have the west side. You have the west side of Detroit, over in the Sherwood Forest, Palmer Park, Green Acres area. That's also being used to combine information from Huntington Woods, Royal Oak, overpriced ass Berkeley. That's not affordable housing. You're taking averages that people in those communities right south of Sherwood Forest, Green Acres, and Palmer Park, that university district that people cannot compete with.
Right.
So it's just a nice catchphrase to get people all excited because, again, they think it's low income housing, but no, one has nothing to do with the other. Nothing.
Yeah, when I was managing property, I remember being on one end of Jefferson. Orleans Landing was being built. They were telling people it was affordable housing. And I had residents headed down there. And I'm like, y'all going to go to that trailer. They're catching buses. They're walking down Jefferson. I said, you're never going to live there unless you get another job. You can't afford it. And when they started reviewing those people's applications, they're telling them, like, you can't afford to live here. But y'all said it was affordable. I said, what you have to understand is if their highest rent is $3,000, the affordable component is $1,500 or $1,000. It's not affordable for you.
It's not affordable.
And they're like, well, that's false advertisement. No, that's you not understanding. You need to find low income housing, and they say affordable, and they keep saying that because they know. If I don't know anything about housing, when I hear affordable, I'm going to get excited because I think it's low income, and it's not.
Right. One of the things that strategically has been done is because of the negative press that communities get when they operate in NIMBYism, not in my backyard. They're strategic and they price people out.
Right.
And so we had a a hotel that was in one of the cities. We have like a twin city, Lancaster, Palmdale. It's we call it Palmcaster. It's the same city. We're divided by an avenue, and the mayor did not want us to buy a hotel that was up for sale, and we wanted to, our organization wanted to buy the hotel, and with the room key project monies, it was in a good location for the unsheltered, around the corner from where we purchased the other two. And he said, no, no, no. Well, the people were, if it's vacant, eventually people are going to set up shop in there. And they did, and they burnt the thing down. Now, had he allowed us to purchase it, we could have supervised that property. We could have helped those people learn how to live independently, taught them some independent living skills. But what happened was that it was NIMBYism. There were enough of his constituents who said, "Hey, we don't want these folks here," when they were actually there anyway.
And those are probably bleeding heart liberals that think they too good for the people that they get the votes from, the majority they vote from. And that's no surprise. I'm assuming in California they were bleeding heart liberals.
Well,
Billy.
in this case, it was probably a mixture, because it's Lancaster is a conservative community. Actually, Palmdale is too, where I live, but Lancaster is extremely, and the mayor is extremely
Conservative.
Conservative, yeah.
Okay,
but it was
one out of a million out in California.
Yeah.
And then
but I just wanted to make the point of NIMBYism, that is one of the strategies that communities use to keep what they
find undesirable out of their community.
Yeah.
And just so y'all know, NIMBYism is not in my backyard, because I know it's people like NIMBYism, because when we use it, they're always like, "What does that mean?"
Yeah.
So can you address this point? Because you talked about this last Friday, Ms. Brown. Dwayla talks about, once you have these unhoused individuals in the shelter, how are these places being staffed in terms of safety and security? She says that she has heard about the facilities being so atrocious. And you hit on this a little bit last Friday.
Well, here's the thing people don't know. A lot of times the security and the people staffing it on the front end are people who have been in the shelter themselves.
Mm-hmm.
As part of their program, find them a job. Oh, we have a job here. Let's underpay you and move you in. And it's the worst, because a lot of times the people who are the front end staffing these shelters are half a step above the people living in them. So those are the people that tell you, you lucky you have a place to live. My rent is way higher than this, and I have to pay rent. And they start to hate the people that they used to be. And they are atrocious. There have been people attacked by staff here in these Detroit shelters, black mold, roaches, bed bugs. I mean, if you look, Detroit Rescue Mission has been sued about the bed bugs. And the same shelters have the same problems, get the same complaints. There's a picture of a bologna sandwich floating around from Cass. It looks like it has blue cheese on it. It's so moldy. And people have been complaining to the city through the grievance process about these food, about the treatment, about the conditions. And you know what the city does? Give them more money. We were just watching, we were talking about that.
There's no oversight much from the city, I take it.
No, there's no oversight from anybody. Nobody cares. So, because think about the people who live in the homeless shelter. They're poor white people and poor black people. We don't care. So whatever you need to do to keep them out of our neighborhoods, stop them from starting encampments, just do that. Like even here in Detroit, in the summertime, there's an encampment in Hart Plaza. Well, usually year round, there's an encampment in Hart Plaza. They just run them away in the summertime because of the festivals. If you work in City Hall or in the City County building, You can look out the window and see the homeless people sleeping on the grates, sleeping in Hart Plaza, sleeping on those picnic tables when they have the food trucks out there after they leave. You got homeless people, you drive through there at 2:00 and they're asleep on picnic tables. People don't care. It's just like you said, they just don't want it in their backyard. If you over there, that's fine, but just stay there and don't come back over here. People used to sleep over there in front of where the Myers is, Eric, until they built the Myers. So
you talking about, you talking about on Jefferson?
Because remember, Tinseltown used to be over there back in 2016. But yeah, people were sleeping. They had a row of trees or some bushes, and people were popping up tents and putting in the bushes. The city cut those bushes down.
Wow.
Cleared up that encampment because they were back there in those trees and got them right out of there. And that's the thing. I live on Jefferson in what is considered a luxury building. Within like a mile and a half, I know where there were 8 homeless people living in buildings, living behind buildings. Then you make that turn on 375, and there are people standing there with homeless signs. You have the homeless shelter downtown, the Salvation Army shelter. In the summertime, you drive by and you see them laying on that easement in front of the Burger King. It is a problem, and it's like, you know, my city council, the former mayor, the current mayor, as you are driving home, I know you're seeing these people.
Oh, yeah, they driving down Jefferson. They seeing them. Let me get to some of these comments. There's quite a few, and I'll run through them. Mr. 1213, he was surprised by his 2009 visit to Las Vegas. Homeless people sleep on parts of the strip during the day, and then they move them away to the behind the strip. No, during the night, and then move them behind the strip during the day. Then you have G Money Hollywood. It's a reality in the USA that the average person who loses their job and does not have some form of other support, like a spouse, a family member, a friend, is one paycheck away from being homeless. Then you have Derrick Henry. Don't forget they're standing out front selling too.
Yep.
Then you have, let me get a few more of these in because they took the time to comment. Mr. 1213. Job One America is constantly in need of carporters for Stellantis, just parking newly produced vehicles, and that's an easy job.
But you gotta have a license.
Yeah. I'm sure you do. Then you have again, G Money. Homelessness can happen to anyone. No one is exempt from the negative event. A health challenge, a car accident, a loss of family members' income can cause things to spiral out of control for anyone. That's a fact. Miss Sheila states, she's speaking on truth. She's referring to you, Miss Brown. Something you said. Derrick Henry. We are cash cows. Yes, the people are cash cows. Mm-hmm. The Njawa 1721. I'm so done with America. Kenya's economy is way more appealing to non-residents. Part Or, thanks for joining me this evening. Looking forward to you being on the show soon. And then he asked, and you can answer this too, Miss Brown. Why do you suppose Mary Sheffield kept Conrad Mallett on her staff or as counsel? That'd be as counsel. Good question. And obviously it speaks to what someone else said. I forgot who made the comment. Maybe you can remember, Ms. Brown, about Duggan still running the city. So that might be one of the reasons
here's
why.
What I was told, and I got this from somebody that works for the city. To get his support, she had to agree to keep some of his people. And we all know what the score is. Conrad Mallett will be here. And let's just say Mike Duggan wins and becomes governor. Conrad Mallett then goes on to be counsel for the governor because he ain't going nowhere that Mike Duggan ain't going.
Oh, no, that's his boy. He's right. He's been everywhere he's been. That's one thing.
And the only reason he's staying right now is because he's working long enough to see if Mike Duggan loses this election. I wouldn't be surprised if Conrad Mallett retired if Mike Duggan lost the election.
Then Karen Winston, the problem is lack of success with the caseworker the caseworker helping that homeless person find housing and employment is needed. Then you have Miss Sheila saying, who investigates these organizations? That's a good question. Who does investigate? Oh, you? Okay.
Me, what I try to do is I look into them. I report them to the state. I report them to the COC. I report them to the city. Nothing is done. As a matter of fact, if you send for your request for anything that I've sent, you'll see I'm complaining. I'm asking for clawbacks. I'm making ethics complaints because, again, at some point, somebody's going to come in there and say, why has this not been done?
Right.
I
And
don't know.
Dwayla Boyce, you know, you speaking the language that we've been saying. I've been saying this about education, poverty, poor, and everything. So what I'm hearing, there is no way to really combat the homeless situation because it is a money maker for the powers that be. And that is a ding, 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 ding.
And nobody questions them.
And nobody questions it.
Nope.
Let me get through a few of these. I only got a couple more minutes. What about the tiny home project? Okay, that lasted about all of 24 seconds.
It's a scam.
It's a scam. Then G Money Hollywood, the schools are closing down mainly due to not enough kids are living in those areas. Why have so many schools when you have 50% of the population that left the city? Well, we understand that, G Money Hollywood. The question was, and I forgot who asked, I think it was Dwayla Boyce. Why are not some of these schools being used as homeless facilities or turned over to homeless facilities for the low income, not affordable housing, but for low income? That's the issue.
We did hoteling here too, and they spent. I know one woman. She claims they spent $30,000 or $40,000 hoteling her. So imagine
they spent how much?
$30,000 or $40,000. She lived in the shelter for almost a year. With that kind of money, they could have fixed her up a house from the land bank and had her permanently.
Right. So, I'll read some more of these comments, or people go back and watch the show. We're out of time, but in your closing comments, I go to you, Billy Joe, first, and then to Ms. Brown. With regards to the situation on housing, what is your closing comments? What do you think needs to be done going forward?
I do agree. And I appreciate you having me, Brother Eric and Ms. Brown. I enjoyed our dialogue. I believe that the keys to being more effective is oversight. It is ingenuity. It is critical thinking outside of the box, and it is wraparound services.
All right, thanks. And Ms. Brown?
And I agree. I think right now, if we're going to change the homeless system, we have to demand oversight, whether you live in a homeless shelter or whether you're just a resident vested in Detroit. You should care about homelessness, because all those people that manage to maintain their houses, their neighborhood over there behind the old St. James nursing home, they didn't want a homeless shelter in their neighborhood, and there's one there now. And as housing rises, if that's not something you want, you need to demand oversight to make sure that this money goes to putting people in housing. We need oversight and we need education. They should make field trips to homeless shelter mandatory, because I don't think anybody says, when I grow up, I want to live in the back seat of my car. I want to take my 3 kids and go live in the homeless shelter. People need to see what happens if you are not in the right place at the right time and a tragedy happens. Nobody plans for tragedies. People can't afford to plan for them. And when they happen, they will put you precariously housed, living in cars, and in homeless shelters.
And I want to thank both of you for joining me this evening. We have to do it again. What I'm going to do is read the poverty report that has been prepared, I'm assuming. If not, I'm sure it's coming out soon, because she did name a poverty czar. I guess that's the best title to give the young man that has that position. And then I will send that out to both of you all with some highlights, and we will have this conversation again sometime next month during Black History Month, even though I believe in Black History 24/7, 365. But since, the Feel Good Phrases have an event during Black History Month about Black history, so we could talk about that next month, probably towards the end of the month. And I would definitely love to have both of you on again at the same time to talk about this very important issue. To all the viewers and the numerous comments, it's been a lot. So I will send this out once it's downloaded and recorded, so people can watch the show again and look at some of the comments, because a lot of comments are a lot of things to think about. And Mr. Somebody's asking for my contact information. If you're still on, you can reach me by way of brown.eric, ERIC, the number 79 at gmail.com. Again, brown.eric, the number 79 at gmail.com. And again, thank everyone for joining me this evening. Next time I will be on, it will be Black History Month. Starts soon. So Good evening, peace, one love,
thank
and
you for
see everyone
having me,
again
Eric.
next week. Thanks again, Miss Brown. Thanks again, Billy Joe.
And nice to meet
All
you,
right.
Billy.
Thank you. You too, Miss Brown.
All right. Good night.
Good
Good
night.
night.